who's traveling to her family for a while. Well, today our theme is about the Kabbalah. And I was given that idea, which shows that I'm responsive to your input, So after the service every week, people come up to me and talk to me about what they're thinking about and what they would like me to speak about. So Alan was telling me that he watched this movie called The Tree of Life. Have any of you seen it? It's a very artful, amazing movie, and that maybe I could speak on something to do with that. So, Tree of Life, the Kabbalah, and every week we're sitting here looking at it behind us, the Tree of Life, the Kabbalah, and I found it funny and interesting that this week was the only week that it's ever been covered up. So I thought of it sort of like Mount Shasta, Sometimes you drive down and you really want to see Mount Shasta, and she's covered in clouds. But that's the way she is that day. So we'll appreciate Sephiroth through the veil, through the clouds. So my hope in bringing forth some thoughts about the Kabbalah is that you would be inspired to study it for yourselves. It's a lifetime worth of study. There's so much on the internet now about it, and I got to study it when I was in the Bay Area with Dr. Rabbi Daniel Natt at the Graduate Theological Union. And so that was a great time of my life to be able to delve into it deeply with him. But one of the best sources that I've found about the Kabbalah is this book that I have with me right here. And this is for you and me who don't speak Hebrew. It's called The Complete Idiot's Guide to the Kabbalah. This is a great book. It really will help you to understand the Kabbalah. And so on that note, in the Kabbalah it says that we have this rising life force energy that is always there within us, even when the dark clouds come and we are in a harder time of our lives. This life force energy is always there within us. And so there's lots of meditation techniques that are taught in the Kabbalah. And as a lead-in to our beautiful song that Heather's going to sing, I wanted us to do a brief meditation technique that's about this rising energy within us. But it's laughter meditation. It's not all serious in the Kabbalah, because the meditation, it's called Kivana, and it's about intent. And so it says that in any particular moment, you have to be able to set your intent on joy. On joy. And so I think doing some laughter sometimes, laughter yoga as they call it, can help us to do that. So I'd like you to stand up and just feel this life energy that is flowing through us all the time. As Heather's song calls it, this rising green. Oh, Great Spirit is first? Oh, okay. Well, she's singing Rising Green later. Okay. Oh, Great Spirit is first. They'll go both too. So Great Spirit is within us, yes. And so there's Kabbahlistic meditations that focus on the letters of the Hebrew alphabet, but since I don't speak Hebrew, and maybe not many of you do either, I thought I'd focus on the letters of the English alphabet and do some laughter yoga with that. So A-E-I-O-U. And so the first letter of meditation is A. And so we could use it as Ah. So let's do some laughter yoga with So another laughter yoga that we can do, because it is Veterans Day tomorrow, so I thought we would honor the veterans by doing a salute. But the veterans, they didn't get to laugh when they saluted their officers, but we want to bring some joy into this whole situation of Veterans Day. So I want you to turn to the person next to you, and as you salute them, laugh. Laughter more through your body. So another one is that we can be Japanese together and Buddhist, and we can bow, and as you bow to one another, instead of being serious, burst out into laughter. To greet somebody, walk around and greet about 3 or 4 people, but as you reach out to touch them, pretend that there's a lot of static electricity and you get shocked as you touch them. Thank you. You can be seated. Don't you feel warmer now? Don't you feel the life energy flowing a little bit more? In fact, I might need Roy to turn down the heat back a little bit.
I just turned it off. Good.
But it makes the life energy flow. And so we are here to celebrate that this is a real thing, this life energy that is spirit in our midst. And so in this next song, you may want to listen to it for a minute and move into it slowly, but at a certain point you may want to stand up and really feel it moving through you.
Great Spirit is everywhere.
Oh, great Spirit.
person next to you and hold, not just the person next, but on either side of you, and hold hands with one another. Great Spirit, we acknowledge that you are all around us. You're in us and you're all around us. You come to us in our breath. You come to us in our laughter. You come to us through the light, through the wind. We ask you to come now. Come and be with us. Fill this place with this energy that is you. That's the energy of all goodness and love and kind-heartedness and gentleness. Come be with us now. Help us to feel you today. And we know that as we draw close to you, you draw close to us. And our needs will get met. So shower down upon us. May the needs be met here today, Great Spirit, through one another. Typically, if you don't mind, is come up front. And we adults like to be with you and appreciate you. And I'm so happy to see you again. It's been a while. I know Patrice is happy too. Hi, everybody. Hi. This is your great Sunday school teacher, Patrice. And she'll be so happy to have all of you. Yes. So what we like to do is let you know that we see a bright light shining in you, and that we appreciate that you are beautiful, beautiful people who have come on this planet to bless us. And we're excited about who you are, and we want to get to know you and have a good time with you. So we're really happy that you're here. And as you grow up and come into the service more, we'll use your talents and have you have more of a time in the service too. So thank you for being here. And we adults rub our hands together because that's like our chi energy that we're raising. And we want to see if you can feel it, because we're sending out this blessing to you. So we're sending out our energy and we say, we love you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ light shining in you. Did you feel that? Thanks for being here, and Patrice will take you out with her to have a good time together. If you want to go out, you can stay with your moms if you want, but if you want to go out, you can have a good time with Patrice.
Oh, we got a large picture. Yes.
Yay, Harmony.
Thank you, Harmony. As we appreciate seeing all the young ones with us, it makes me think about ourselves in our younger years and how we tend to be very open to spiritual dimensions when we're younger, and sometimes veils, like these veils, come over and kind of cloud our memory and cloud our sense of connection with the divine as we go through difficult experiences as life goes along. But right in this moment, I'd like you to think back about a time, it might be in your childhood or it could be in your adult life, when you had a sense of the mystery of the cosmos. I remember a time when I was 12 years old and I had a pajama party over at my house. And we all went out on the roof, because that was a fun thing to do, sneak out the bedroom window and all sit on the roof. And we were looking up at the stars and laying back, and we kids got talking together, and we weren't having to deal with the parents or religion or anything that anybody told us. We were just in our own wonder, and we said to each other, who's out there? Where are we? This is amazing. Look at all those stars and all those worlds that are out there. And who are we in the midst of it? And then we thought we saw a UFO. It looked like it shot across the sky, and we all giggled and thought, wow, maybe there really are other beings out there. So it was a time of that opening to awe and wonder. And I want you to pause right now and think of a moment like that for yourselves. When was a time in your younger years when you had this sense of faith, of awe that there was something greater than ourselves, a mystery, the unknown. And now turn to somebody, if you would, and if you didn't think of anything, that's okay. Maybe the other person did, but if you did, just briefly share with each other what that moment was that you just thought of. Try to find somebody if you're not sitting next to somebody, and share what that moment of wonder was. Just feel more connected and more together with one another, just by, I think, taking the risk to share a little bit from your own experience. Thank you for doing that. The word holy in Hebrew is derived from and means being whole, as you can hear in it, right? But it's also related to the word for health, which means a state of being whole. So holy is like being in health. But curiously, the Hebrew word holy is also, it's the word kadash. And that word literally means separated. So it doesn't mean whole, but it means separated. But what the translation or interpretation of it is that when you're coming into wholeness, you're becoming separated from something, which is your mindset, egoism, that separates you from the whole. So kadash is a double meaning word, and a lot of the words in Hebrew are like that. They have this double-edged meaning to them. So separated from our egos that separate us from the wholeness. So I've asked Karen Douglas to come and read this, one of my favorite poems, short poem from David White. And it was about one of those moments for him when he was feeling, I bet, somewhat separated, but wanting to feel holy in the wholeness. And the poem is entitled Faith. Read it twice, Karen, because it's short.
I will. I want to write about faith, about the way the moon rises over cold snow night after night, faithful even as it fades from fullness, slowly becoming that last curving and impossible silver of light before the final darkness. But I have no faith myself. I refuse it even the smallest entry. Let this then, my small poem, like a new moon, slender and barely open, be the first prayer that opens me to faith. Again?
Yes.
I want to write about faith, about the way the moon rises over cold snow night after night, faithful even as it fades from fullness, slowly becoming that last curving and impossible sliver of light before the final darkness. But I have no faith myself. I refuse even the smallest entry. Let this then, my small poem, like a new moon, slender and barely open, be the first prayer that opens me to faith.
Thank you.
Got it?
So sometimes we don't have faith. Sometimes we can't find that rising energy within ourselves. And it might be the new moon, or it might be a friend, or it might be a poem that comes out of us that creates that opening. And so Heather, it has a, did you write the song?
No.
Rising Green?
It's by
It's a Celtic.
Carolyn McDade.
It's a beautiful song about the coming of this sense of the holy. And when Heather was telling me about it on the phone the other day, she said, I have this poem on my refrigerator, a short statement that is about that same kind of thing that David White was writing about all of nature calls us to faith when we don't have it ourselves sometimes. What does your poem say, Heather?
So in Rising Green is also about the expansiveness of our soul and how connected we are to the whole universe, the trees, the ocean, the moon. So this is really inspiring to me. That's why it's on my refrigerator all the time. There is an abundance of seeds, and the silent trees invite us to come live with them and leave our lives of self-important trifles. I'll read that again. Helps me get out of my whatever is going on sometimes. There is an abundance of seeds, and the silent trees invite us to come live with them and leave our lives of self-important trifles. And so this is A Rising Green by Carolyn McDade.
My blood doth rise in the roots of yon oak. Her sap doth run in my veins. Boundless my soul, like the open sky, where the stars forever have lain. Where the stars, where the stars, where the stars forever have lain. My hands hold the weavings of time without end. My sight as deep as the sea. Beating my heart sounds the measures of old, that of love's eternity. That of love's, that of love's eternity. I feel the tides as they answer the moon, rushing on a far distant sand. Winging my song is the wind of my breast, and my love blows over the land. And my love, and my love, and my love blows over the land. My foot carries days of the old into new. Our dreaming shows us the way. Wondrous our faith settles deep in the earth, rising green to bring a new day. Rising green, rising green, rising green to bring a new day. Rising green, rising green, rising green to bring a new day.
It's written in the Zohar, which is one of the pinnacle books of the Kabbalah, that in the end days, the Kabbalah would rise again, that it would become popular, and that people all over the planet would study it. Well, very interesting that young people, especially in Berkeley and LA and New York and London and all over the world, are flocking to study the Kabbalah in these times. And you can find literally over 1 million sites on the Kabbalah on the internet. So the Kabbalah it's about our friendship with the universe. It's about the fact that the universe is a friendly place. And so you hear in that song, you know, that's our blood that rises with the sap in the trees, that we are interbeing with the universe in very mysterious ways. And sometimes our greatest connection with the universe is in one another. You know, so it's very important how we connect with one another and how we think about one another and how we speak to one another. And so I've asked Francie to come and read a short reading to us out of The Science of Mind book that thankfully Whitey sends to me every month. And it's about our friendship, not only with the trees and the moon and nature, but our friendship with spirit for and with one another, and being so thankful for that. So, Nancy.
Good morning, friends. As she said, it's from this wonderful little magazine, Science of Mind, and it's called Friends Gratitude Letter. This first quote is by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Never lose an opportunity of seeing anything beautiful, for beauty is God's handwriting. And here's one from the Science of Mind. True prayer must be, thy will be done. It is a knowledge that the will of God is always good. Dear friends, thanks for all the times you have lifted me up and given me a smile, a fresh new idea, a new word, a new song, and your laughter. Thanks for your advice and the way you didn't get mad when I didn't use it. Thanks for showing me how impossible it is to run out of love. Thanks for bringing me light when I had no idea how dark my life was. Thanks for being a good example when I needed one. Thanks for looking out for me when I didn't know I needed looking out for. Thanks for giving me space to try out new ideas and not saying, I told you so. Thanks for sharing with me when you were running on empty. Thanks for teaching me about love and the way it feels, the way it lingers, grows, and weaves each of us together. Thanks for letting me into your life. I don't think I could have made it without you.
Thank you, Francie. I know I have felt that kind of friendship here amongst you, and I'm sure that you felt it with one another. That's the beauty of coming together and really being there for one another in community, spiritual community. And so if you weren't during that reading, I want you right now to just close your eyes for a moment and think of some friends that you're really thankful for. They might be right here in this room. They might be far away, but just in your heart right now, say their names and say to Spirit, thank you. Thank you for this friend. Thank you for that friend. Thank you for coming to me through friendship. Oh, so thankful for our friends. And on that note, sometimes we have concerns and needs that we are carrying in our hearts alone, and it feels good to share them. It feels good to speak them out and to let others know that something has happened. And that's what we do one-on-one sometimes, and then sometimes here at Unity we do it in our group like this, when we speak out our prayer requests. And I would like to request that, Arlene, would you be willing to come and just say a concluding prayer at the end of everyone saying their requests? But I know things are happening in our midst that I've heard about and have touched my heart, and I know that there are many things deep in your hearts that are too tender for words, and you don't want to speak them out, and we're holding them right now in this sacred moment, knowing that intuitively we can know that, and that Spirit knows even things that are too tender to speak. But if any of you would like to put forth a prayer request, request. Love to hear them. We'd love to hear them and hold them in all of our hearts.
Request for my mother that her angels and her guides and her friends lead her in following the path of life.
David's mother just passed away. David, she's in the hands of angels, and thank you so much for speaking that so that we could know that that's what's happening and that's what you're going through.
My dear father, Peter DeRocher, is in chemotherapy this weekend with a brain tumor that spans both hemispheres.
Wow.
And I am so grateful I get to go see him this week. I don't pretend to know what the best outcome is, but I do pray and request prayer for peace and joy and love in this reunion that will be happening with my family this week in the highest and best good.
river. The ocean refuses no river, no river. How loud, how loud, how loud.
Really breathe into that.
How loud, how loud, how loud.
Surrender.
How loud, how loud, how loud. How loud, how loud, how loud.
I would like to talk of a miracle that happened last Sunday. I went to the symphony, started walking up the steps to Symphony Hall, and the lady next to me said her name, and she said, "I'm the lady that pulled you out." I walked up the steps.
Norma, we can't hear what he said.
He said that he was walking up the steps to the symphony and last week, and the lady walked up to him and said, "I'm the woman that pulled you out of that pool when you were drowning," and he didn't know who she was. So sometimes our angels appear. It's a beautiful moment when that happens. The ocean refuses no river. Thank you, Richard and Heather, for giving us an experience in those moments of feeling what the Kabbalah is all about. The Kabbalah is that the universe loves us and is vast, and there's no part of us or our experience or anyone else's experience that is not held in love and ultimately completed in love. The Kabbalah does believe in reincarnation and says that we come here to learn lessons and that we're here as long as we can get these lessons, and then we pass on into the other dimensions again, and then we come back and we continue to learn the lessons. So many of the world's great traditions give us a second chance like that. So the ocean refuses no river. It's such a good feeling, isn't it? To relax into that, howla, all is well, to let ourselves really accept that. The core of the Kabbalah is that there are many, many other worlds and other dimensions that exist, but they're hidden from our view. And we get narrow in our view, and we get caught into thinking that this is all there is, that these difficult circumstances are all there is. Our conventional understanding of the world of material things is compared to a great darkness in the Kabbalah that keeps us from recognizing the spiritual dimensions, which are full of light. This material world is one that the Kabbalah says is imaginary. This is imaginary. We've made it up. And we're all limited by our perceptions, and admitting this is the first essential step. But all humans, the Kabbalah says, are also given a kli, K-L-I, and that means a desire to receive light. We all have a kli. Every human being has a kli, the sixth sense it's called, that we can come to understand that there's much more than the dimensions that we're working with right here with our five senses. So there's an interconnectedness of everything and everyone in the whole universe. I wonder if that's why the Huichol, when I worked with them, had us make this weaving that was shaped like this, and they called it the God's Eye. So before we could do any work with them, we had to make this weaving, and it had a hole in the middle. And they said we had to be headed toward, have the desire to get to seeing through this perspective, this God's eye view of things. Well, the God's eye view of things, says the Kabbalah, is a view of love. of great acceptance and of great completeness and wholeness. It's a holy view, if you will. So we are in this life to get a more holy view, to open our eyes into our hearts, wider than our five senses can take us, with our sixth sense, our kli, to see the hidden wisdom. The Kabbalah is called the hidden wisdom. And you know, for many centuries, it wasn't really available to common people. The Jewish people say that it originated with Abraham, and that it was very secret teachings that could only be transmitted orally. But some say that it originated way before Abraham, 4000 BC. They're saying, and I find that interesting, that that's around the same time as the Tuatha De Danann came to Ireland and transmitted this knowledge of the great interbeingness of all things. So apparently on the planet, there was this transmission of light, of great light and of great harmony, long, long ago. So it's come down through the ages, preserved. The Kabbalah has been preserved by the Hebrew people. And for many, many centuries, it was only available to be studied in small groups of a few men who had to be over 40. Until fairly recent times. But in the 1100s, there was one of those upsurges of humanity wanting, desiring, having this kli, this desire of their heart arising for spiritual connection directly, just as it was apparently in the times of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, an upsurge of all of the people wanting it. So in the 1100s, there was an upsurge like this. And there was one teacher of the Kabbalah, Abulafia, who decided to make it known to all the people. And so he took the time and energy to explain it to the masses and teach it to as many people as he could and have them spread it to others. While I was in graduate school studying this, I was also studying Buddhism, and I found out that there was a master in Japan around the same time named Kukai, and he also had that same desire in his heart to spread it and share it with all people, while Buddhism was a very elite thing that was only for the few in China and Japan. And he started spreading it to all the people. They lived at the same time, Abulafia and Kukai, worlds apart. And yet they had the same mission. And as I looked into it more deeply, I found it fascinating that they gave the same spiritual exercises, the same mudras, hand motions, the same chants, the same meditations. Isn't that amazing? So somehow this information is there in us, in our humanity, and it comes forth, this hidden wisdom, at different times. Through the Kabbalah, we undergo internal changes. This wisdom that comes forth puts us through changes as we meditate on the Kabbalah, as we listen to the trees and look at the moon and are helped by one another. We go through internal changes that the Kabbalah calls tikkun, T-I-K-K-U-N, tikkun. These are called the corrections. So the teaching is that when we're exposed to the Kabbalistic meditative materials, that gradually this light enters our hearts and we climb the ladder of wisdom. And you can see that in the Kabbalah here. It's a ladder. It's a ladder from earth at the bottom to the heavens at the top. And we're all given an opportunity to correct ourselves and to climb this ladder of wisdom. Gradually we begin to receive light more and more as we go through our days here. We get to receive light more and more. It's said that the thought of God at the top there, at the white part, the thought of God, of the Ein Sof, which is the great light, is that God, the great light, wants to bless all of creation with God's substance, which is love, light, energy. And so that's the thought, the heart of creation, wanting to give to us. And we are called and this is where the word Kabbalah comes from, the La Kabel, which is the cup or the vessel of receiving. So humans are called La Kabel, the cup of receiving. And that describes this desire within us to receive pleasure, All humans want pleasure. All humans want freedom. Like we say in our Constitution, there's certain inalienable rights, that we all desire happiness and freedom. Well, the Kabbalah talks about that. All humans desire happiness and freedom. And guess what? God desires that for us. This is an ancient truth. It's not just something that New Thought people have come up with. It's there in civilization's development when you think of it. Civilizations all over the planet have had desires for a better life and have moved their whole civilizations towards that better life over and over again. And whatever we think about the Puritans' desire for freedom, we have our questions and doubts about that too, but they desired freedom and they moved to this country, and that led into eventually the Revolutionary War, where people wanted freedom from unjust taxation. And that led into this United States being founded that represents democracy and freedom for all. And yes, we have a long ways to go to really grant that, but there are these movements amongst humanity towards this desire for pleasure and freedom for all. So the tree of life is all about having a balance of this giving and receiving between the divine and us. Wow. The eternity of the Ein Sof, the great light, is all about wanting us to receive. Now, you hear what I'm saying? I mean, it's not just something we're thinking up here. This is, as I was saying, an ancient knowledge that some say came to the planet about 4,000 BC, that the whole essence of the universe is to give blessing to us, to have us receive. And that not only that, but the Creator makes us in such a way that we are vessels that need to be filled with light. So you get a tiny glimpse of what the Kabbalah is about here, but some have said it's a book of quantum physics, that it's not really religion, it's like a map of the universe in a quantum physics way. But the Creator also realized that we can't take the full effulgence of the Ein Sof, of the great light. So we are given what's called the Mesak, which is the shields or the screens that protect us. And so that's why there are 4 worlds that are between us and the great Ein Sof, and they are Atzilut, Beria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. And forgive me if I'm not saying them correctly, but these are the Hebrew words that represent these 4 worlds that are connected to, guess what, the Mother. These 4 worlds all emanate from the Mother. So it's as if this mothering energy is put in place in the universe to shield us, to protect us, so that we're not overwhelmed by the greatness of the light all at once. These four worlds represent filters. So we are called to align ourselves with these filters as we go along that are a little bit more light and a little bit more light. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment, but at the very root of the tree of life, at the lower root, is what's some call it Tzimtzum, which is the great restriction or the great shame. The great shame at the lower root, at the earth plane. The shame is the most powerful force, it's said, that drives humanity. There's worldly shame at not meeting up to our earthly parents' expectations or our own expectations, and then there's this shame that we sometimes can feel, that sometimes it feels like a self-annihilator almost, like it's like a death wish that we get sometimes, that we aren't doing the right thing, that we aren't good enough, that we're not making it somehow. The Kabbalah tells us that, yes, there is at the root of us this sense that we have missed the mark, and some have called that sin. The Kabbalah says that at creation, before the Big Bang even, all love and goodness and kindness was poured out, blasted out, if you will, just emanated out. And so we start to realize that there's an element on planet Earth that is selfish and blocks that love, that light from coming. And sometimes we think of it as a devil, but in New Thought, we tend not to believe in the devil, and we tend not even to believe in evil. But the Kabbalah says that there is this something that stops the light from coming. And the Kabbalah says that it's not the devil, it's us. And so that's kind of heavy to come to terms with, to grapple with that. It says it's our shame. It's like a cloak that blocks the great light from coming to us. But anytime that the Kabbalah says something that's kind of hard to bear, at the very same time, like I was saying with that poem of Faith by David White, it always presents, like the other side of the blade, something that's very hopeful. So it says that at the points of shame in our life, at the points where we're feeling the most down about ourselves or about some circumstance that maybe somebody else is going through or the world is going through, that at that very place, it's what is called the point that enters the heart. The point that enters the heart. And the Huichols call it the heart of darkness. And the point that enters the heart is the point of great light. So the Kabbalah says that at any point of darkness, at any place of shame, it is the point of the heart where the great light enters in. Fascinating. So shame isn't a good or bad thing in our world. It may be a very unpleasant feeling, but it's like humility. It's like humility. It's like realizing, I've got something to correct. And so the Kabbalah says that we humans are here, that God put us here to correct creation, to help all of creation come into more knowing of divine love, more alignment with the truth of what the whole universe is really about. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to reach these points where we get humbled, where we feel shame, because it's a sign of progress, the Kabbalah says. It shows that if we can actually admit that we're feeling that, we are opening our hearts to something greater than ourselves, to this love, this goodness, this harmony that exists in all of the universe and everywhere around us. So the Kabbalah actually says that shame is the most valuable tool for correction, for tikkun. The recognition of our error is the beginning of good. So it's like the shadow work, that I like to teach. It's a challenge to us that comes when a shameful thing happens or we feel humble or a difficult thing happens, to look within and to go in there and receive the gift out of that difficult thing, because that's where the empowerment of love is. I like it that it's a point of an arrow that goes into the heart, because it made me think about Cupid's arrow. And so it's as if the universe is shooting Cupid's arrow into our heart all the time and asking us to open in our darkest places, in those places where we feel the most pain. It's shooting the arrow of Cupid, the arrow of love in there, and saying, please open, please make the correction, so that you can experience the greater wholeness. Rabbi Yehuda Ashlag, who was one of the great interpreters of the Kabbalah, said, and while man has not attained perfection, there are these lights that are destined to come to him, are deemed like surrounding lights. That means that they stand around him, awaiting his attainment of the vessel of reception, awaiting our attainment of being the vessels of reception. These lights stand around us, these four lights, these four worlds, these other lights, these friends, these trees, these moons, these lights stand around us. And even when we just name them, even when we just call out to them, these lights rush in, and we are immediately illuminated to a certain degree. The Kabbalah says there's no waiting when we turn to make the correction. The lights rush in to help us. And Richard called me this week, and he said, knowing what I was going to speak about, he said that he has this song, and you know how wonderful Richard's songs are. It's about a human who was going through difficult times, and a light rushed in.
Gnarly, and she goes, I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm afraid my idea of gnarly and hers might be a little different.
The heart of darkness, what can we say? Comes to us.
The theme's pretty simple, though. Yeah. Going out on these great quests, I'm sure there's something of value out there. And, you know, it's like, what's right here? And, yeah. Something like that. Called Luann. Heard there was gold in the Klondike. All I found was a cold, bitter land. I lost 3 toes, barely made it out before I froze. All for the love of Luann. I bought a map to fable of El Dorado and the deathbed of a wild-eyed medicine man. But the jungle was cruel, crawled out snake-bitten, still a fool. But it was all for the love of Luann. She asked me to stay through winter and work the fire and forge with her paw. But the harpsy pups were suckling in my seats. I couldn't get the blood out till after the thaw. Then 100-barrel whalefish sank our schooner. A long, hungry month till we finally reached land. And though it was a little sad, old Riley didn't taste half bad. Ah, the things that I've done for Luann. And scars festered deep down in the man. For there was plunder and rapine as we bled and sacked the Argentine. But it was all for the love of Luann. She asked me to stay through harvest. Said maybe life didn't have to be so hard. But the salmon were running, skelton had a fat stash of cash till that bad run of cards. And now I'm finally home from Sri Lanka, a rich man with sapphires near as big as your hand. And for what it's worth, I sank the finest one into the earth by the grave of my beloved Luann. Could have made some better choices, but she'd always smile and say, I understand. And a man's gotta do
Kabbalah says desires are not bad in and of themselves. He's singing about this desire, this heart's desire for Luann, for a love. Many of us are driven to many extents in our lives for love, for the love of a person, for the love of... That's one of the strongest desires that can come upon us. When desire pushes us, we become restless, and we move along to go gold dig, to go all those places that he describes. It pushes us. It pushes us to progress. Desire is a motivating force behind all progress. Yet the ego desire drives us only to a certain point, as you could hear in Richard's song. The ego desire drives us to wealth, to status, to recognition, or to get this lover, or this house, or this car. The ego desires drive us to get these things, and then we're still dissatisfied. The unsatisfied state is the state of the ego. It forces us over and over again to come to disillusionment of attaching our desires to those things, to this world. So, again and again, we're brought to intend something higher, something better. In this state, when we're disillusioned, when we're dissatisfied, we begin to desire spiritual connection, which is a uniquely human desire. I don't know what's happening in the rest of the universe, but here on planet Earth, this is the setup, that we have these desires, and that the desires are not bad in and of themselves, and we have to follow them, but they lead us to the end, where we're not satisfied. And then we have to start questioning ourselves, and we have to say, what did I intend with that action? What was my intent in that thought? And we realize that we have made choices, and that we can set our intent and head toward these things. The Kabbalah says the right aim is the single most important and most difficult thing a human must do. The right aim is the single most important and difficult thing a human must do. And reading that reminded me of a time when I was doing a meditation retreat. I did a lot of long meditation retreats in my 30s, and I was doing a 21-day silent retreat with U Pandita from Burma. And you get one hearing with the great U Pandita while you're in this 21-day retreat, because there were hundreds of people there. And so you wait and wait for that session when you're going to have your wisdom from the great teacher. So I came before him, and he said this to me. He said, when you pick up your fork, be mindful of where you are placing it. That was it. I waited all this time. But I've never forgotten. And he was saying the core of the Kabbalah to me. The right aim is the single most important and most difficult thing a person can do. So our task is to be aware of aspects of our life where we're not aiming correctly, and to correct our aim. When we're in anger or envy or jealousy or fear or addiction or loneliness, we're not aiming quite correctly. The Kabbalah says, take aim again. Pray and meditate and connect yourself with the upper world, and as soon as you do, the light will rush in. Light will rush in to help you over and over again. Many, 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 many times. U Pandita and Goenka and other meditation teachers would say to us, don't let shame overtake you. Begin again. That's all you have to do. Begin again. Begin again. So don't judge others. If it takes them a long time, according to you, who knows what they're dealing with in lifetimes leading up to this lifetime. Don't judge yourself if it seems to be taking you a long time. There's the golden rule, that says, love your neighbor as yourself. And in studying the Kabbalah, it's brought me to understand that it's the golden light rule. The golden light rule. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's the core golden light rule, that as we do this, the light will flood in to help us. It's said that the Messiah will come. The Kabbalah says the Messiah will come, not in one person, but the Messiah will come when all of us, when the world has evolved to the place where none of our neighbors are in need. That's the aiming of the heart of God. Are we aiming there? We each have opportunities every day to point our intent. As this point comes into our heart, it's our job to point our intent toward the highest good for all. So the Kabbalah shows us that we're always being tested, and we're always being challenged to correct, to tikkun, to do the correction, so that we can come into the great union. The great union. So I hope that as you contemplate the mysteries of the Kabbalah and realize that we're all headed for this heavenly union, it is inevitable. We are all headed for this ultimate heavenly union. All of the ones that you worry about are headed there. All of the ones that you're fearful for are headed there. Everyone is headed for this great union, and it's a great mystery. And just to conclude about that movie, The Tree of Life, watch it if you get a chance, but it starts out with this quote from the book of Job. And you know, Job, he was in dire straits and lost everything, and it says, and it's God kind of scolding Job, and it says, "Were you there when I hung the stars in place? Were you there when I laid the foundations of the world? Do you understand how this is all going to come about? I don't think so. So will you trust the great Ein Sof to bring it all the way through? That's our job, to receive the love and the light. So may the mystery of the Kabbalah, that the eternal night is constantly giving forth eternal light, be a source of hope and strength for each of you. And now we're going to take our offering. Thank you for bringing forth your faith through your money to uphold this container, this place where we can come together and be reminded of spiritual truth and feel each other's friendship and love. So thank you for giving generously.